I started this as a quick read, but it turned into something much longer, because once you dive into the mystery of the Sodder children, it's hard to stop. I spent a full day going through podcasts, articles, and first-hand accounts, and the deeper I went, the more a single theory began to form in my mind. It's not some wild conspiracy. It's chillingly simple, and to me, it explains nearly everything about one of the most puzzling, unsolved cases in American history. On Christmas Eve, 1945, the Sodder family was settling in for the night. George and Jenny had 10 children, though their second oldest, stationed in the Army, wasn't home. George was known in the community for his outspoken anti-fascist views, openly criticizing Mussolini, which earned him enemies among local pro-fascist Italian Americans. He had even been threatened that his house would be burned and his children destroyed for his beliefs. That evening, 5 of the Sodder children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and little Betty, were allowed to stay up late to finish chores, with Marion staying up with them. Jenny and Sylvia went to bed, while George John and George Jr. were already asleep. Around 12:30 a.m., Jenny was woken by the phone. A stranger asked for someone she didn't know, and in the background she could hear laughter and clinking glasses. She hung up, thinking nothing of it. But she noticed something unusual. Marion was asleep on the couch, the lights were still on, the curtains were open, and the front door was unlocked. Shrugging, she assumed the others had gone to bed, so she turned off the lights, drew the curtains, locked the door, and went back to sleep. Half an hour later, a heavy thud struck the roof, followed by a rolling sound. Jenny woke briefly but returned to sleep, unaware it was the first sign of an incendiary device landing on the house. 30 minutes later, smoke filled the air. Panicked, she grabbed Sylvia and woke George, John, and George Jr. They rushed downstairs to rouse Marion, who tried to call the fire department, but the phone wasn't working. John and George Jr. shouted up to the attic for the other 5 children, but there was no answer. The staircase was already engulfed in flames. Desperate, they looked for the ladder, which had been used for years to reach the attic, but it was gone. They attempted to move one of their trucks under the window to climb up, but both trucks, which had run fine the day before, wouldn't start. By the time the fire department finally arrived hours later, the house was nothing but rubble. Investigators claimed the children had died in the fire and that their bones had burned completely. But experts know that it takes hours at extreme temperatures to reduce human bones to ash, and even then, crematoriums must sometimes crush what remains. The house had burned for less than an hour. No bones were ever found. Witnesses later came forward saying they had seen the missing children alive in the days after the fire, at a diner, a hotel, or in the company of strangers. The ladder was eventually found at the bottom of a cliff, 75 feet away. The phone line had been deliberately cut, and the trucks had clearly been sabotaged. Most theories point to the Sicilian Mafia, either angry about George's anti-fascist beliefs or trying to extort him. But the Mafia doesn't fit. Mussolini had crushed the Sicilian Mafia, making them a non-factor in 1945, and if it were extortion, George would have known. Any theory suggesting the children survived and started new lives is equally implausible. Surely, even once in decades, they could have contacted their mother to give her peace of mind. No extortion, no mafia connection, no human trafficking explains the missing children combined with the sabotaged trucks, cut phone line, and missing ladder. Instead, it points to something much closer to home. George had enemies in his own community, people who knew the family intimately. My theory is that a group of local pro-fascist individuals planned to burn the house as revenge. The 5 children, on their way to complete chores, stumbled upon them. To silence the witnesses, the group lured them away, kidnapped them, and likely killed them shortly thereafter. The fire then became a cover for their crime. Evidence supports this. The lights were on, the door was unlocked, the curtains open. Marion was asleep and unaware. The ladder was thrown off a cliff, preventing access to the attic. The trucks had been tampered with, blocking a rescue attempt, and the phone line had been cut to delay calling the fire department. Someone may even have climbed the ladder beforehand to douse the attic stairs with fuel, ensuring no one could reach the empty rooms. Then, through influence and community connections, the incident was officially ruled an accident caused by faulty wiring, a conclusion that benefited those with motives against George. It's a theory that is both simple and horrifying, but it accounts for nearly every strange detail of that night. The Sodder children disappeared, the house burned, and the world has been left wondering ever since. What would you do if you were in George and Jenny's shoes? Could this theory finally explain what happened to the missing children? Share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your take on this chilling case.